Part 41. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 403. 401. Thinking of what she had seen recently, Grandma Chi-san wanted to talk to Bai Qianjiao. "I've also heard about what's going on in your family," Grandma Chi-san said. "I've also heard Shul Yang say what those people have done over the years. Well, in a word, they are just white-eyed wolves who have not been raised well. Don't do it because those who don't matter are sad and sad. Although I say that, after all, I have given my feelings. It is not what I want to do." Bai Qianjiao sighed. "However, the human heart is the most difficult to satisfy. Tolerance over and over again is not in line with what I do." "Yes, you still have feelings for a dog or a cat, let alone a human being," Grandma Chi-san said. "Cherish the people you care about and forget about those who don't matter. We are all in our 60s. I don't know how many years I can live. In this case, why not let yourself live happily?" "Sister Chi has great insights," Bai Qianjiao said. "Yes, most of my life has passed. In the last few years, I must live a happier life." The two old ladies chatted animatedly and laughed from time to time. "Sister Tian, what are you eavesdropping on?" Qi Zhenmin came up behind He Tian and asked in a low voice. "Sister Tian is sneaky, so if you want to hear, you can just go over." He Tian covered Qi Zhenmin's mouth and said, "Keep your voice down, the two grandmothers are chatting." "You can also just go in and listen." Qi Zhenmin was even more puzzled. "There was a sofa inside where you could sit, so why did you eavesdrop outside? Furthermore, Grandma Bai and Grandma inside were so loud and what they said did not shy away from other people." "No, I'll just listen and prepare lunch together right away," He Tian said and went to the kitchen. After having lunch at Qi's house, Bai Qianjiao left. But as soon as the car left the gate of Qi's house, it was blocked by several people, 2 women and a child. Those people, determined that it was Bai Qianjiao's car, stepped forward and knelt in front of the car. "Sister Bai, you can't just ignore an away. After all, they have called you mother for so many years. You can't be so cruel." An old woman threw herself on the front cover of the car, howling. "Cry loudly." Sitting in the car, Bai Qianjiao's temples beat a few times and her face was gloomy. It seemed that the lesson was still light. "The shame has come to the Qi family. Get out of the way." Xianglan stuck her head out of the car and reminded them. Seeing this, Xianan quickly dragged her child to the rear window and said, "Mom, please, take back that statement. We will be obedient in the future." Bai Qianjiao didn't want to stay here any longer and said, "Let the bodyguards pull them away. These people will always do things in the stupidest way, thinking that as long as they beg and shed tears, they can get forgiveness from others. They have no memory of how much harm their actions have caused to others. Too selfish and too self-righteous." Xianglan made a gesture to the bodyguard behind, and 7 or 8 burly men behind him came out of the car and pulled the 3 people away from the front of the car. "Grandma, don't you love me anymore?" The child's shrill voice spread throughout the surrounding area, attracting attention. Bai Qianjiao did not show up. Since the relationship has been severed, there is no need to waste energy on these self-righteous people. "Bai Qianjiao, don't go too far and push us into a hurry. I'll hang myself in front of your gate," Ye Wen said rudely. In order to achieve the effect, he was dressed in ragged clothes and in a trance, as if he was crazy. Under the obstruction of the bodyguards, the road was cleared, and the car started again, throwing away the people behind it. The bodyguard followed closely and left, leaving the 3 of them in a panic. By the time the Qi family sent someone over, Bai Qianjiao had already left and looked at the 3 people who were confused. Ye Wen also knew that it was embarrassing. The photos he wanted to take had already been taken. There was no need to stay here. He took his daughter and granddaughter and left in despair. Walking far away, there was a foreign man. This man was Xianan's husband. Jeffrey Gladstone was holding a camera in his hand. The boy just now was Xinan's son Denton Gladstone. "How's it going?" Xinan asked. "Did you get the picture?" "Dear, it's been taken," Jeffrey said. "Now their company is in urgent need of money, otherwise it will go bankrupt in less than a week." "What a sad thing." Without the company, he would not have a decent life, so he was willing to direct and act in such a play with his wife to make Bai Qianjiao submit. "Okay, tomorrow the newspapers will read about that bitch's despicableness," Ye Wen said. "Let's go home. These people are willing to do anything for money. They planned very well, but if Bai Qianjiao didn't give in, they kept doing this, publishing it in the newspapers to undermine Bai Qianjiao's accusation." Ye Wen not only published it in the newspaper, but also found a lawyer to pursue her ex-husband's property and sue for unfair distribution of property. No matter whether he can win the lawsuit or not, it will only make Bai Qianjiao lose face. Bai Qianjiao, who has good face, cannot hold on for long. Just like that, the next day some big photos appeared in some tabloids, as well as articles accusing the vicious stepmother. Ye Wen's article to the newspaper had a name, but the newspaper was not a fool. If they did this, they would definitely receive a letter from the other party's lawyer. So I kept my surname, but my name was changed, and the car license plate number in the photo was also mosaicked. In this case, it will not only remind everyone of Bai Qianjiao, but it will not cause a lawsuit. As for whether the story is true or not, is it important? Not at all. What their newspaper wants is topicality. As long as there is controversy and sales, that is the most important thing. Xianglan sorted out the newly arrived newspapers in the morning and was angry. How could these people talk nonsense and confuse right and wrong? Bai Qianjiao saw the report above and didn't say anything. She ate breakfast quietly. "Miss, if you don't sue," Xianglan said, "they are bullying too much." Bai Qianjiao shook her head and laughed, saying, "Those people may be waiting for us to sue. Such tabloids are no big deal. People who know us understand the situation. People who don't know me, we don't need to explain. Then let them do whatever they want." Xianglan was upset. It was too bullying. "Haha, my father said that grasshoppers in autumn will not be able to jump for long," Bai Qianjiao said. "These people are so crazy, it will only accelerate their demise. These people think that public opinion can cause trouble to me. It's a joke. Childish. Yes, they don't use their brains when doing things," Xianglan said. "Then should we let them do this?" "Well, let them continue to make trouble, they are just jumping clowns." Bai Qianjiao nodded and didn't care. She still had a lot of things to do and didn't have time to pay attention. Bai Qianjiao ignored it. At most it caused some gossip, but it didn't affect the family business. Recommend friends to find the new book Phoenix Returns to the Nest about lost love, stable updates, good quality, beautiful writing, and exciting stories. You can search and have a look. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 404. 402. On the other hand, Xinan's company went bankrupt early. Ye Wen also became a laughingstock in front of a circle of friends. Xin Wei once again came to his biological mother's house, found his sister, reached out and slapped her on the face, and cursed, "You ungrateful thing, don't call me brother in the future." After the beating, Xin Wei looked at Ye Wen with squinted eyes and said, "The most shameful thing in my life is having a mother like you." After saying that, Xin Wei left without looking back. Return to the company and deal with complicated matters. The things his mother and sister did brought him a lot of trouble, but because he had done good preparations before, he could still cope with it and he hadn't gone bankrupt yet. As long as you persist for a while, you can definitely change. What made Bai Qianjiao even more angry was that Ye Wen actually sued, and the reason for the lawsuit was so ridiculous. Bai Qianjiao entrusted a lawyer with full authority to come forward to resolve these matters, but she didn't want to deal with them at all. Because she is now preparing to return to China. Bai Qianjiao once again invited Huo Yingjun to discuss returning to China. Huo Yingjun also received feedback from the Huo family in Beijing that he could accept Bai Qianjiao's return, but he had to make preparations. Ms. Bai, things have been arranged. This time we fly directly to Paris, and then transfer from Paris to Yanjing. Huo Yingjun said, this is also the route set by the above. Because China and the United States have already established diplomatic relations, there is no need to go through as much trouble as before. Bai Qianjiao thought for a while and said, that would be even better. I happen to have some industries in France. I can go there in advance and take a look. Rich people are different, they have industries everywhere. Okay, you can go there in advance or meet us in Paris, Huo Yingjun said. Bai Qianjiao didn't want to stay here anymore. It was so smoky and annoying all day long. He Tian, Grandma Chi-san is preparing things over there. Grandma Chi-san called He Tian over and said, Tian, your grandmother really wants you to stay with her for a few days. Hey. He Tian sighed, can you not go? Grandma and I don't have much to talk about. Your grandmother spent so much effort preparing the room for you, and it's a pity that you haven't lived in it even once. Grandma Chi-san said, I'm from here, an elderly person, and I like younger people to get close to each other. Although your grandmother didn't she said it, but she must have thought so in her heart, otherwise she wouldn't have prepared such a good room. He Tian thought about it and said, okay, I'll make some snacks and bring them over to Grandma later. That's right, Grandma Chi-san said, Tian, you have to remember that blood ties cannot be severed unless it is absolutely necessary. That is your grandmother. No matter what mistakes she made in the past, you have to remember that it was she who gave her the gift of love. Because of your father's life, you were born. It was her dereliction of duty for not raising your father. She owed your father, not you. Grandma Chi-san discussed the matter, worried that He Tian was young and could not figure out these things. I know, Grandma. He Tian nodded. Her grandmother loved her, so she respected her grandmother. Let's talk about other things until we meet my father later. He Tian called first and told her about her visit to the house in the afternoon. Xianglin was very happy when she received the call. She made a lot of things that He Tian liked to eat, and called the company to ask the lady to come back early after get off work. Bai Qianjiao was also very happy when she received Xianglin's call. Her work efficiency improved a lot in the afternoon and she returned home an hour early. When He Tian came over in the afternoon, she brought a few changes of clothes. Little miss, I'll help you bring the gift up. I'll show you what you don't like in the room. Tell me and I'll put it on for you immediately. Xianglin smiled and brought He Tian up. Building. The room upstairs is ready, but I have never been embarrassed to invite the young lady to live there. Thank you, Grandma Lan, for disturbing you this time. He Tian smiled, a little embarrassed for coming uninvited. But Grandma Chi-san said that her grandmother was a woman who was strong on the outside but weak on the inside. As a junior, she shouldn't put on airs. After all, we are a family, and we must give our elders the necessary respect. Don't bother me. Miss and I are too late to be happy, Xianglin said with a smile, went upstairs and opened the door. The furnishings inside are all high quality, very warm, not just pink, but also some off-white, very warm. It's very beautiful. He Tian thanked her, I like it very much. As long as you like it, little miss, you can rest inside and I'll go to the kitchen to take a look, Xianglin said with a smile, letting the little miss get familiar with the environment. She being here would make the little miss uncomfortable. After Xianglin left, He Tian looked around carefully. This kind of room is more exquisite than the Chi family's room. This is the first time in this life that I have stayed in such a good room. Now that she has an additional relative, He Tian Tian is still very happy. But there was no way to tell my parents about this good news, and I couldn't tell Huo Yingja either. It's also painful to have no one to share the good news with. Fortunately, she also has the Snake King. Gilo gilo me. He Tian Tian shouted in her heart. Recently, the Snake King went to the beach every night and practiced during the day. She had not seen the Snake King for a long time. The Snake King woke up from his training and asked lazily, "What do you want from me?" "Snake King, didn't you notice that I was in another place?" He Tian Tian asked. "How is this room?" The Snake King released his spiritual consciousness, glanced around, and said, "This is your grandmother's house. It's not bad." "King Snake, you are so powerful, can you tell me what happened to my grandmother and father in my previous life?" He Tian Tian asked. This was something that had been lingering in her heart recently, and she wanted to know the truth. The Snake King looked a little embarrassed. He only knew about He Tian Tian and was not yet able to deduce the others. "Perhaps I will know when I pass the 6 heavens." Mysterious Thunder King Snake said, "Now that you ask, I can't answer you." He Tian Tian was a little disappointed, but fortunately she had been mentally prepared before. "Okay, Snake King, you practice hard and achieve success as soon as possible," He Tian Tian encouraged, placing her hope in Snake King. "I will try my best," the Snake King said seriously. "If nothing goes wrong, I will practice." "Hey, Snake King, now that you're awake, let's talk more," He Tian Tian said. "Have you made any progress in your cultivation recently?" "Yes," Snake King nodded. "The sea is vast and boundless, and the spiritual energy is thin, but the range is large. After I went out several times, I gained a lot." Yehua whispers, a post-apocalyptic woman travels through prehistoric times to acquire beautiful men, the era of prehistoric female sovereigns. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 405. 403. Not only did the Snake King gain something, but He Tian Tian also gained a huge amount. Not just materially, but also spiritually. "Then it's the right time to come to Country M." He Tian Tian smiled and said, "If there is an opportunity in the future, I will take you to visit more famous mountains and rivers. Maybe I will gain some insights into your practice." "You can have this," Snake King nodded. He Tian Tian thought of what happened to her grandmother recently and asked, "Snake King, my stepson and stepdaughter have been slandering my grandmother recently in order to achieve their goals. Those clowns are not surprising. I want to ask, will they hurt my grandmother?" The Snake King sneered and said, "He Tian Tian, please don't be so naive. Your grandmother is much more powerful than you think. Just enjoy this family relationship." "My grandmother is really going to be fine?" He Tian Tian asked again, confirming again. "No, your grandmother has a lot of power behind her," Snake King said. "The reason why she didn't punish those 2 people personally was because she didn't want to dirty her hands." He Tian Tian became even more curious and said, "Grandma is so mysterious, will she be in danger if she goes to China with me this time?" "Dangerous," Snake King sneered, "some people are too late to flatter you." After hearing this, He Tian Tian was not curious, but shocked, and asked, "Snake King, can you make it clearer? If Grandma is rich alone, it is not enough for people to flatter me. Is it not enough for me? Something you know?" The Snake King didn't reply. "Snake King, please tell me quickly," He Tian Tian asked hurriedly. "Why? If you know, you must tell me, so that I can be aware of it and be prepared." The Snake King thought for a while and finally said, "I scanned some of your grandmother's documents and found that there are many confidential documents involving many advanced weapons." He Tian Tian was shocked and said, "You mean my grandmother smuggled arms?" "It's not smuggling, it's production," Snake King replied, "Are you in country M? It's not in the United States, it's in a hidden Latin island." Snake King said, "If a person with such power can't even protect himself, it would be too bad." He Tian was silent for a long time, and based on He Tianation's experience from watching TV for decades in his previous life, if it is related to arms, if it is officially recognized, it is called a military-industrial enterprise. If it is not officially recognized, it is a terrorist organization. Such an identity is very sensitive in both country M and country H. Under such circumstances, is it appropriate for my grandmother to go to country H? He Tian doesn't know how to deal with such a thing. King Snake, "It's too dangerous for my grandmother to do such a business." He Tian said, "Is it really okay for my grandmother to come to China with me?" The Snake King shrugged and said, "That is one of the Bai family's properties. Originally, your grandmother also wanted to end this business as soon as possible, but she has been unable to get away. But she wants to see your father, so she doesn't care so much. I used to think that my grandmother was an ordinary businessman, and it was nothing to go to China. But after I got the news from you, I also felt that it was not appropriate for my grandmother to return to China." He Tian said, "But my grandmother misses my father so much. She will go." Yes, the Snake King nodded. "Actually, you can think of it this way. Anyone who is interested can find out the relationship between you and Bai Qianjiao. Whether your grandmother comes back or not will now attract the attention of both countries." "Hey, yes," He Tian sighed with emotion, "it's just a matter of a layer of window paper. Although I know about this matter, I can't persuade my grandmother. I can only take one step, forget it." The Snake King originally didn't want to tell He Tian these things because he was worried that He Tian would think wildly and waste his energy. "Okay, don't think so much. Your grandmother is a smart woman, she knows what is most beneficial," the Snake King said with relief, because it had noticed that Bai Qianjiao was looking for a way out. "It's just that the Bai family's stall is very big, and it won't be able to shrink for a while, so we can only do it step by step." Bai Qianjiao arrived home before 4:30. Hearing that He Tian was resting in the room, he did not look at He Tian directly. Instead, he changed into home clothes and waited for He Tian downstairs. "Your grandmother is back," Snake King reminded. "There must be a way to reach the mountain, so don't think about unfounded worries." "Okay," He Tian agreed and changed into home clothes. When they got downstairs, He Tian smiled and said, "Grandma, have you left work early? I heard you were coming." "I took care of the matters at hand and came back." Bai Qianjiao said, "Come here this time and stay for a few days to stay with me." He Tian smiled and said, "Grandma chased me away, but I won't leave either. I brought all my clothes with me." Hearing her granddaughter's affectionate voice, Bai Qianjiao said happily, "This is your home, you can come over anytime." "Then I remember what Grandma said." He Tian smiled and said, "I'm hungry. I'll go see what food Grandma Lan has prepared." In the kitchen, He Tian happened to run into Mrs. Brown. "Dear Mrs. Brown, I miss the little pudding you made so much." He Tian smiled, "Can you make some tomorrow?" Of course Mrs. Brown smiled, "I didn't expect you to be the young lady in the family." "Haha, everything is fate." He Tian said mysteriously, "I brought gifts to Jimmy and Amy, please help me deliver them to them tonight." Mrs. Brown was very happy and nodded repeatedly, "Thank you very much." "Because I helped He Tian, I didn't expect that He Tian was the granddaughter of her employer." The employer learned that she had helped Miss Jenny and gave her a 30% salary increase. With this extra 30% salary, she can live comfortably with her 2 children and provide them with a good life and school. When the food was ready, Bai Qianjiao sat at the main seat and Xianglan and He Tian sat on both sides. Bai Qianjiao was happy today and did not abide by the habit of being silent while eating and sleeping, and asked He Tian some questions softly. "Tian, you only went to junior high school, it's a pity not to study." Bai Qianjiao said, After returning to China this time, will you come back with me? He Tiantian was embarrassed, thought for a moment, and said, although I want to go to school, I want to be in China more. Why? Bai Qianjiao asked, is life really good in such a closed country? Life is not good, but people are good. Because my parents are in China, I don't want to leave them, He Tiantian said, although her grandmother was very pitiful to be alone, but she still didn't want to leave her parents, and she didn't want to leave Huo Yingzhe. What if your parents are willing to come to the United States with me? Bai Qianjiao asked, looking at He Tiantian intently, wanting to know He Tianatian's true thoughts. Feng Qingqing, Yang Zhen's little wife, is reborn in the Qing dynasty. Yang Zhen's backyard elites gather together, each showing their magical powers, and the flower demon shows up to fight with the gods and horses in the palace. Everything is stress-free. Noble girl fights for dad. Father and daughter travel through time. In the era of fighting for dad, house fighting is also leisurely. The sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 406. 404. Returning to China this time is not simply a return trip to visit relatives. For the safety of her loved ones, she had to pay some concessions and costs, but it was all worth it. Ah, He Tiantian was stunned. Is this okay? Nothing in the world is optional, only the ability is sufficient, Bai Qianjiao said. The most important thing is the chips in your hand and the sufficient price you can pay. He Tiantian suddenly thought of what the Snake King had said before, that the Bai family where her grandmother lived was in the arms business. When I go back this time, will people in China take a fancy to my grandmother? He Tiantian stuttered, I can't bear to. Your little bamboo horse, Bai Qianjiao asked with a chuckle, her eyes playful. He Tiantian was stunned and asked, Grandma, how do you know? Ha, of course Sister Chi told me, Bai Qianjiao said. It seems that my guess was right. Grandma, you are making fun of me too, He Tiantian blushed. My brother Yingzhe and I were childhood sweethearts. He loves me very much and I love him very much. When Bai Qianjiao saw He Tianatian's expression, she remembered her love with He Jinming. It is as hot as fire and unforgettable, but the passion fades away, leaving behind pain. Although it hurts, I don't regret it. But that's the beauty of love, isn't it? Although she wanted to remind her granddaughter to keep her heart and not get lost in men. But the words couldn't come out. She couldn't do it, so how could she ask He Tiantian to do it? This is a valuable experience in He Tianatian's life and should not be controlled by her. Haha, Sister Chi is right. People don't waste their youth in romance. Enjoy your love and youth, Bai Qianjiao said, but I only have one request, or in other words, only one suggestion. Grandma, tell me, I'm all ears. He Tiantian was happy to see that her grandmother did not object to her and Huo Yingzhe. Her grandmother was still very open-minded. Bai Qianjiao put away the smile on her face and said seriously, love is passionate and unforgettable. This is understandable, but please remember not to be carried away by love. You can love, hate, and complain, but please protect yourself. Cherish your body. Because your thoughts are your own. You slowly accept information from the outside world and form your own consciousness. But your body and life are not your own. They were given to you by your parents. You must cherish them. Let alone trample on it. He Tiantian was stunned. Her grandmother's words were very upright and full of positive energy. Grandma, I know that a person's hair and skin are influenced by his parents. He Tiantian said, if love is gone, there can be another one. But if your health is not good and your life is gone, then there is nothing, only make the people who care about you sad. This time it was Bai Qianjiao who was surprised. She nodded repeatedly and said, yes, that's understandable. Grandma, I remember everything. He Tiantian smiled. She had identified Huo Yingzhe in her life. But the prerequisite is that Huo Yingzhe also remains sincere. If Huo Yingzhe fell in love with her, or did something sorry for her, He Tian would not wait like a stupid woman for Huo Yingjia's love. From her grandmother's words, He Tian could hear her grandmother's view on love. Love comes when fate comes, love passes away when fate comes, don't force anything. But the most pitiable person may be her father. Xianglin listened to the conversation between her grandfather and grandson and said with a smile, "Miss, little miss, you two have similar looks and similar temperaments." "Really?" Bai Qianjiao turned around and asked, "She looks strong on the outside but is fragile on the inside. In fact, life is a bit tiring." After He Tian was reborn, he gradually became stronger with the help of the Snake King, but that was only on the surface, and he was still sensitive and fragile on the inside. "Actually, it's okay. It's all for the family I love and the people I like." He Tian smiled, "So no matter how hard or tired I am, I'm not afraid." Strong in heart and fearless, Bai Qianjiao nodded, marveling that her granddaughter had such a mind. After dinner, Sun and Zio took a walk in the yard to eat. He Tian settled in her grandmother's house. In the past few months since He Tian left, Huo Yingjia had been so busy in the research institute that he lost more than 10 kilograms. Huo Yingjia was already tall and not fat, but now he has lost more than 10 kilograms, which is even more obvious. Now that work has reached a stage, Huo Yingjia had 3 days of vacation. After sleeping for a whole day, he and Zhou Yuanchao came to General Manager Sun's house. Aunt Li saw that Huo Yingjia had lost so much weight and said naggingly, "That old man named Sun doesn't treat you as human beings. How thin are these two young men?" Huo Yingjia touched his face and found that it was indeed less fleshy than during the Chinese New Year. "Hey, the task is heavy, and when I get busy, I forget everything." "This has nothing to do with Mr. Sunday. Aunt Li shouldn't talk about Mr. Sunday," Huo Yingjia said, helping Mr. Sun speak. "Aunt Li's cooking is delicious, and her skills in talking about people are also very profound." Zhou Yuanchao said with a smile, "Aunt Li, we have lost weight. You can cook more delicious food and eat more and you will gain weight." "Okay, just wait. I'll make a pot of braised pork for you today," Aunt Li said. "You work like crazy people. If you don't eat something good, how can your body bear it? You are all still young and can't. I don't care. If you are weak, you will feel uncomfortable if you have a wife." Huo Yingjia was embarrassed. He seemed a little embarrassed to say this. "Okay, you blabbering old woman, hurry up and cook." When Mr. Sun came out of the study, he heard his old wife saying such things and hurriedly urged, "Everyone in the institute has lost weight. It's strange that Huo Yingjia and Zhou Yuanchao have gained weight. Come here, you two, I have something to tell you," Mr. Sun said kindly, looking at the two juniors with a bright future. Huo Yingjia and Zhou Yuanchao followed closely and arrived at Chief Engineer Sun's office. "General Manager Sun, is there anything you can't say outside?" Huo Yingjia asked. "It's a holiday today, so there won't be any important tasks, right? The Research Institute in Yanjing has a new project and is recruiting talents across the country. I have recommended you to the superiors. After your vacation, you can pack up and go to Yanjing." Mr. Sun said, "This task is too much. Important, it must be fully enclosed." In the past, their research institute could receive some projects distributed by Yanjing. Once completed, they only needed to hand over the reports and finished products. But that won't work this time. The whole process must be kept secret and sealed, and they must live in the base. Huo Yingjia's heart skipped a beat as he thought of the Eagle plan. Damn it, it will take several years to go there. The middle is completely closed and cannot come out. At the same time, experts recruited from across the country gathered in Yanjing, established a working group, and then headed to the mountains. If the research is not successful, it will never be released. General Manager Sun, there is no need for us two young people to go to such a complicated place. Huo Yingjia didn't want to go. He also wanted to wait for He Tian to get engaged by the end of this year, and then get married when they are in their teens. Looking back lonelily, the evil sword spirit of the beast controlling immortal counterattacked on the path of immortality. The sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 407. 405. If he participated in this project, based on his understanding, he would not be able to come back for at least 4 years. 4 years. How much time he had to waste. Furthermore, He Tian has been to country M and has a close relationship with the Chi family, making the review difficult. If he participates in that project, even if he writes a marriage report, it will not be approved. Poor Huo Yingzhi didn't know that He Tian recognized his grandmother in country M. Grandma is still the head of the Bai family. In this case, various inspections will be more stringent. Because Huo Yingzhi's work is very confidential. At the same time, the status of the Bai family is even more sensitive. This project is a special project, and it is an honor for every researcher to participate in it. Mr. Sun said, "You two have strong professional knowledge and flexible brains, so I sent you there. You now not only represent individuals, but also representing our Nanji Weapons Research Institute." Zhou Yuanchao was eager to try and excited. "Yes, boss, being able to participate in such a project will leave a name in history," Zhou Yuanchao said puzzledly. According to the boss's temperament, he should be very happy. Huo Yingzhi looked embarrassed. He couldn't say that the confidentiality factor was too high and it would delay my marriage. "General Manager Sun, I have personal matters and I still don't want to go." Huo Yingzhi said that the project would be completed without him, it would just take more time, but if he can't marry He Tian, finally got married, and he was reborn once in vain. He had already lost his beloved woman once and could not make such a mistake again. Mr. Sun thought for a while and said with a smile, "Are you worried about getting a wife?" Even though Huo Yingzhi was a lot older in his previous life, he felt embarrassed to be asked this by Chief Engineer Sun, but he couldn't be vague about this matter. He nodded and said, "Yes, such a project will take a long time. Even if I finish it, the assigned tasks may not come back." Zhou Yuanchao was stunned. The boss was just different from others. Everyone keeps their mouth shut and sacrifices their lives for the country, but only a few can really do it. The boss admits it directly and is open-minded. "Just 2 years, don't worry, it won't delay your marriage." Mr. Sun predicted that it would take at most 2 years to say this. Huo Yingzhi is still full of black spots. After 2 years, those people have been too optimistic. Some ideas are correct, but without suitable materials everything is empty talk. "General Manager Sun, you'd better send someone else there." Huo Yingzhi was still not happy and would push him if he could. General Engineer Sun said with a tigerish face, "Comrade Huo, the institute has trained you, and now it is the time when your efforts are needed. How can you shrink back? You are thinking about lifelong events, but you are not yet old enough. Well, it would be great to marry a wife after you have completed your mission. Besides, if that woman doesn't want you because you have delayed marriage because of your contribution, it is too low-minded to not want such a wife." Zhou Yuanchao also felt that the boss had gone too far, and persuaded him in a low voice, "Boss, the reason why we devote ourselves to scientific research is not because we hope that the country can make scientific and technological progress and improve the national strength. We cannot miss such a good opportunity now." "Xiao Huo, you are not as enlightened as Xiao Zhou," Mr. Sun said. "Young people must participate in the vigorous development of science and technology in order to reflect their own value." Chief Engineer Sun said so, and he could no longer refuse. "Okay." Huo Yingzhi agreed with difficulty, "then I will leave the institute tomorrow and go home first before reporting. Such an important project will take a long time. If I don't explain it to my family will be worried." When Huo Yingzhi went back, he wanted to talk to his parents about something about the year after next, and ask them to help him take care of He Tian. He couldn't let his daughter-in-law run away like this. "Okay, I'll grant you a 7-day holiday, and then you can go directly to the Yanjing Research Institute to report. Chief Engineer Sun said. By the way, don't forget to go to my office to get the transfer order before you leave. Okay, Huo Yingzhe agreed, feeling a little disappointed. Compared with Huo Yingzhe's depression, Zhou Yuanchao was more excited. Seeing Huo Yingzhe's appearance, Mr. Sun shook his head and said with a smile, since ancient times, heroes have been saddened by the Beauty Pass, Wenwen Township, and the hero's tomb. Huo Yingzhe looked embarrassed and said, if you are not a romantic person, you will waste your youth. I want to get a wife. What's wrong? Ha ha ha, Mr. Sun laughed, yes, seeing you reminds me of my youth. Love makes people feel happy and intoxicated. At this time, Aunt Li knocked on the door and came in, saying, what are you talking about again? Come out to eat? Oh my, the beautiful love has now become a constant chatter. Mr. Sun felt that his old wife was a disgrace and he shook his head repeatedly. Huo Yingzhe laughed and said, General Manager Sun, don't you love Aunt Li now? When Aunt Li heard this, she also wanted to hear what the old man said. If his old wife were not here, maybe he would have a different perspective. However, in front of his old wife and for the sake of a stable life in the future, he stood firm and said, of course I love her, it will never change in my life. After hearing this, Aunt Li felt sweet in her heart, but in front of the juniors, she looked a little embarrassed and said, okay, hurry up, or the food will get cold. After saying that, Aunt Li walked out. Seeing that the old wife was gone, Mr. Sun whispered again, young couples come to stay with each other all the time. You will understand in the future. They don't know whether they will understand it in the future, but they know General Manager Sun's remarks of one thing in front of your face and another behind your back. After having dinner at Mr. Sun's house, the two of them started packing their things. Boss, are you going back to Nanxi and then to Yanjing? Zhou Yuanchao asked. We are staying separately for a few days. Can we report together? Huo Yingzhe packed his things and replied, the specific time is not sure, you don't have to wait for me. Take care of things and go directly to Yanjing. That's good, Zhou Yuanchao said, feeling even happier at the thought of going home. I have recently saved a lot of food stamps, money, and industrial stamps, and took them home for my family. Those who do research, especially those who are not married, have no use at all. In the evening, Huo Yingzhe asked Zhou Yuanchao to call Tang Xinliang and Qian Miao Miao, bought some snacks, and brought them to a beautiful place in the institute. Boss, why did you think of inviting us to get together? Qian Miao Miao asked while eating white rabbit toffee. Huo Yingzhe smiled and said, Yuanchao and I were seconded to other units and asked you to come over and gather together. I don't know when we will meet next time. It's just a secondment, not a transfer. After completing the task, you will always come back, Qian Miao Miao said. Anyway, there are people like this every year in the institute. So when Huo Yingzhe and Zhou Yuanchao said this, she was not curious. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 408. 406. Only those who are good enough are eligible to be seconded. I can't work with the boss anymore. Tang Xinliang was envious. He learned a lot when he came to this group. In their group, as long as you work hard, others will not suppress you. Unlike in other groups, you will always be excluded and suppressed to varying degrees, and you will not be able to use your abilities. Yeah, it's a pity when you think about it, Qian Miao Miao said. We are not qualified to lead the team independently, so we can only be assigned to other people's groups. If my father doesn't care, my mother won't love us. Don't worry, I will talk to Mr. Sun and ask him to make proper arrangements for you, Huo Yingzhe said. He still wants these two assistants, After Yuan Chao and I leave, you must work harder. When I come back, if you let me know that you have not made progress, I will scold you. Boss, just rest assured that we will not embarrass you, Qian Miao Miao said. It wasn't until 7 o'clock in the evening that they finished eating the braised food and snacks and drinking all the wine before going back. When Huo Yingzhe was alone at night, a message came from the little turtle. Huo Yingzhe didn't drink too much, so his mind was clear. Master, that person started arranging people to push Zhou Yuanchao out, and Chief Engineer Sun is trying his best to argue, Xiao Suangi said, telling the master this important news. That person is Zhang Wei, the spy hiding in Nanxi Scientific Research Institute. It will take a long time to come back from this trip. During this time, Zhang Wei may develop a lot of offline. Since Zhang Wei's ideas cannot be accepted, there is no need to keep him. Then what did Mr. Sun say? Huo Yingzhe asked in his heart. This is the most important thing. General Manager Sun has already made the transfer order, and said that this is not Zhang Wei's scope of responsibility, so he should not cross the line. General Manager Sun said, now General Manager Sun has the upper hand, but that person has not given up. What's wrong? Huo Yingzhe asked, is he going to hurt Zhou Yuanchao? Yes, I want to cause an accident on the road. Zhou Yuanchao is injured, so naturally he can't go to Yanjing to report, Xiao Suangi said, that person is really bad. Huo Yingzhe was silent, thinking about how to bring down Zhang Wei. Master, have you decided what to do? The little spinner turtle asked. It was by its master's side all day long, and it also preferred Zhou Yuanchao, a carefree person. Well, I'll think about it again, Huo Yingzhe said. Based on the information provided by Little Spin Turtle, he came up with a brilliant idea. Early the next morning, Huo Yingzhe went to see Mr. Sun. I told Mr. Sun some suspicious things about Zhang Wei at work. General Engineer Sun looked seriously and asked, Yingzhe, this is not a joke. You must be careful about what you say. Of course, Huo Yingzhe said, I had this suspicion before. Those people could have interrogated more things. Why didn't Zhang Wei report it? Chief Engineer Sun nodded, thinking that yesterday Zhang Wei wanted to replace Zhou Yuanchao with a man named Li Pu, and suddenly felt bad. It is Mr. Sun's right to recommend whom to go. Zhang Wei only had to examine the political profile of the people he chose. Zhou Yuanchao was politically clean and without any stain. But Zhang Wei still insisted on making substitutions, which was a bit too much. Although the person recommended by Zhang Wei was the most outstanding person in the research institute after Huo Yingzhe, General Manager Sun felt that the person's expertise was inappropriate, especially because that person did not have a tacit understanding with Huo Yingzhe, and was not as good as Zhou Yuanchao and Huo Yingzhe before. Working together for such a long time, we have formed a tacit understanding and can get twice the result with half the effort at work. If he is really a spy, I can understand why he kept recommending Li Pu yesterday, Mr. Sun said heartbrokenly. It doesn't matter if Zhang Wei is doing work, but he feels sorry for Li Pu. Why is he willing to be Zhang Wei's pawn? Woolen cloth? Pity. It is not easy for the country to cultivate a scientific and technological researcher, especially now that the college entrance examination has been cancelled. Talents are even more rare. Although universities are now gradually recruiting some workers, peasants, and soldiers, college students, they are all recommended, have not passed the exam, and have varying educational levels. Even after graduating from college, it is even more difficult to become an excellent researcher. Li Pu. Huo Yingzhe sneered in his heart. He didn't know that this man was a spy in his previous life, but he was jealous of talents and made trouble in the research institute. This time when he took Zhang Wei down, he took Li Pu with him. As long as Zhang Wei is proven to be a spy, Li Pu will not be allowed to participate in major projects even though he has extraordinary talents. Actually, it is very simple to prove whether Zhang Wei is a spy, Huo Yingzhe said. If he wants to replace Zhou Yuanchao, he will definitely send someone to intercept Zhou Yuanchao on the road. Ah, Mr. Sun was surprised, can you really do this? Will you wait and see if it can be done, Mr. Sun, Huo Yingzhi said, this requires Mr. Sun and Director Hua to discuss how to do it. Director Hua is an expert in this field. Well, wait a minute. You, Qian Miao Miao, and Tang Xinliang are handing over work as a reason to stay in the institute for one more day, Chief Engineer Sun explained, taking advantage of lunch to go to Director Hua's house. When Director Hua heard this, his face turned ugly. He had also suspected that there was something fishy in their security department before, but he did not find sufficient evidence. Director Hua would not doubt Mr. Sun, so the object of Mr. Sun's suspicion would be very suspicious. General Manager Sun, just do as usual, Director Hua said, I will arrange this matter. If the fish takes the bait this time, you can catch a big fish. This is Director Hua's strength, and Mr. Sun has no doubt about it. Early the next morning, Huo Yingzhi and Zhou Yuanchao took their transfer orders and left the Weapons Research Institute together. They bought the same train, and Zhou Yuanchao wanted to transfer trains in Nanji. When he arrived in Nanji, Zhou Yuanchao took advantage of the break to go to the toilet, changed clothes with others, and changed his appearance. Instead of returning to his hometown, he hid in Huo Yingzhi's house. The man disguised as Zhou Yuanchao bought a train ticket to Inner Mongolia and got on the train. All the documents used belonged to Zhou Yuanchao. Zhou Yuanchao hid in Huo Yingzhi's house and was welcomed by Zhang Lifang and Huo Jekan. However, Zhou Yuanchao was worried and asked, Boss, do you think we can catch the spy? It should be okay, right? Huo Yingzhi said, this is not something you should worry about. Have a good rest, and when there is news, you can go home. I hope so, Zhou Yuanchao lamented, is it worth it for these people to betray the country? 3 days later, Huo Yingzhi received a telegram from General Engineer Sun. Finish. Just 2 words, this was what Huo Yingzhi and Mr. Sun had agreed before. Haha, plus what Huo Yingzhi said to Mr. Sun and Director Hua before, it is enough to bring down Zhang Wei, and he can go north with peace of mind. Okay, you can go home. Pay attention to safety on the road and report within the specified date, Huo Yingzhi explained. He also had something to tell his father, and many things had to be explained. Going there is almost like going to jail. Huo Yingzhi won't worry if he doesn't make arrangements. I understand, boss, please pay attention to your safety, Zhou Yuanchao said. When he went out, there were 2 bodyguards following him outside to protect Zhou Yuanchao's safety. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 409. 407. Huo Jekan was very proud of his son's participation in the special project, and his pride was beyond words. But as a mother, Zhang Lifang was more worried about her son's lifelong event. Son, I heard you say that this project is very important. Will it take a long time? Zhang Lifang asked. Tian is now abroad and she doesn't know when she will come back. When can they be together? Huo Yingzhi nodded and said, yes, it will take 3 or 4 years if nothing unexpected happens. Oh, it's too long. Yes, I was thinking of getting you engaged during the Chinese New Year, and then set a date for the wedding, Zhang Lifang said, who knew something like this would happen. Long hair, short vision. Yingzhi is lucky to be able to participate in such a project, which will be his political capital in the future. A real man, don't think about love all day long, making achievements is the most important thing. Huo Jekan's considerations are more manly. To build a career, you must also pass on the family line. Zhang Lifang was unhappy. When you were young, you didn't have such high ambitions. Why do you have such high requirements for your son? In front of his son, Huo Jekan was a little embarrassed and said, okay, now the transfer order has come, it's too late to say anything. Since you are going, do it well. If you make a career and marry a wife, Wouldn't it be better? Zhang Lifang also knew that her nagging was useless. In the end, she encouraged her son to do a good job, but he must eat more and take care of his body. Your parents are not around, you have to take good care of yourself, Zhang Lifang said. If you can, write to us. Okay, Mom, Huo Yingzhi said. This time the confidentiality is very strong, and it is impossible to come back before the development is successful. As for writing letters, it is probably impossible. Huo Yingzhi took advantage of the 2 days of free time to write dozens of letters to his parents and asked them to send them to He Tiantian separately. Then he said goodbye to his parents, took the gift, and went to Yanjing under the escort of Li Yunzong and Zhang Aijun. He Tiantian was in country M and was also preparing to return home. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, He Tiantian had not written to China, so He Jingyu and Wang Shuping did not know that their daughter was coming back, and she brought an important person with her. Bai Qianjiao had arranged the time and went to Paris in advance. Bai Qianjiao considered more. Country F established diplomatic relations with country H in 1960. Compared with the relationship between China and the United States, the relationship between the two countries is more harmonious, so she planned to gradually shift the focus of her work to France to facilitate future work and life. Originally, Bai Qianjiao wanted to keep Xianglin, but Xianglin was unwilling and insisted on meeting the young master and the young mistress. Grandma Qi San was also very busy. After all, it was a return to the hometown to worship the ancestors, and Qi Shuliang's family of 4 had to go back with Grandma Qi San. Qi Shuliang had handed over the work to someone he could trust, and found a third party to supervise it, and formulated some regulations. Even if Qi Shuliang was away for a few months, the company would not have any problems. This trip was relatively smooth. We flew directly to Paris, and then stayed in Paris for 2 days. We took Bai Qianjiao, Xianglin, and 2 mysterious people from the Bai family on a plane to Yanjing. Because it was an official trip, many people came to greet us after we got off the plane. When Qi Shuliang and Bai Qianjiao were being received, He Tiantian actually met Huo Yingzhi in Yanjing. Huo Yingzhun returned home and saw his cousin Huo Yingzhi there, and said, "Yingzhi, why are you here? I received a transfer order from the Science and Technology Commission to gather in Yanjing." Huo Yingzhi said, "Aren't you in country M? Why are you back at this time? Where is Tiantian?" Huo Yingzhi was a little excited and asked a series of questions. "So many questions, let me answer them one by one, don't be anxious." Huo Yingzhun smiled, seeing his brother's impetuous look, like a young man should be. It was quite funny. "Hurry up," Huo Yingzhi asked hurriedly. He didn't know when he would come back this time. If he could see Tiantian, it would be a surprise, and he could arrange some things. This time, Tiantian, Grandma Qi is back with her family. Huo Yingzhun said, "I have good news for you." He Tiantian found her grandmother abroad, the head of the American Bai family. Huo Yingzhi was stunned. Tiantian went to country M, and she could find her grandmother? By the way, didn't Uncle He say that her mother had passed away before? Why did she go to country M? Is she really Tianatian's grandmother? Huo Yingzhi asked half-believingly. Why didn't he have any impression at all? Yes, you can believe my words completely when you see her. Tiantian looks very similar to her grandmother. Huo Yingzhun said, "They are in the state guest house. If you want to see her, I can take you there." "Brother, you are my real brother." Huo Yingzhi smiled and said, "Let's see Tiantian first. As for the grandmother, hey, it's best to reunite. Now that they have passed the clear road, it is estimated that they will not cause trouble to Tiantian, Uncle He, and Aunt Wang." Huo Yingzhi came to the state guest house and finally came to He Tianatian's room after a thorough search. He Tiantian was adjusting to the jet lag and sleeping soundly. After entering, they saw Bai Qianjiao and Xianglin. "Yingzhun, this is..." Along the way, Bai Qianjiao got familiar with Huo Yingzhun and called him by his name. Huo Yingjun smiled and introduced, "This is my cousin, Huo Yingja." Huo Yingja, Bai Qianjia was stunned, thinking of the childhood sweetheart her granddaughter had told her before. Since he was the future grandson-in-law, Bai Qianjia's eyes were more scrutinizing. Bai Qianjia's aura was fully activated and she looked at Huo Yingja. Huo Yingja had met many big shots and didn't care at all. He accepted Bai Qianjia's scrutiny calmly but solemnly. No matter what, the other party is He Tianation's elder, and he must give him enough respect. The living room was quiet. Xianglin and Huo Yingjun both felt stressed. However, Xianglin also knew that the young lady was testing Huo Yingja, and she could not speak out to persuade him. Huo Yingjun next to him felt even more dizzy. This old lady was really unusual. After a while, Bai Qianjia finally smiled and said, "Not bad, a promising young man." Huo Yingja bowed and said, "Thank you grandma for the compliment." Upon hearing this, Bai Qianjia frowned. This kid was so good at climbing up the pole. It remains to be seen whether he can become her grandson-in-law, so Bai Qianjia did not agree and said, "Xianglin, do you think it's sweet? I'll go and see him right away." Miss Xianglin finally breathed a sigh of relief. Being praised by the miss proved that Huo Yingja was a good young man. He Tian slept soundly and had no idea that her grandmother and Huo Yingja had already fought each other. Tian, get up, Huo Yingja is here to visit you." Xianglin sat next to He Tian, patted her on the shoulder and whispered. He Tian closed her eyes and muttered, "It must be a dream." Xianglin laughed and finally saw the childish side of the little miss. She patted her gently and said, "Little miss, get up. Huo Yingja is really here. If you don't get up, we won't be able to see each other until we leave Yanjing." Star. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 410. 408. He Tian opened her eyes in a daze this time and saw that it was really Grandma Lan talking to her. She quickly got up and rushed out before she had time to change clothes. "Hey, you haven't changed your clothes yet, and your hair is messy. You're not afraid of letting your sweetheart see you looking so sloppy?" Xianglin quickly stopped her, but she couldn't let the little lady go out like this, it would be embarrassing. He Tian scratched her head, smiled and said, "I'm dizzy, change clothes right away." He Tian wore a white shirt underneath and a khaki windbreaker outside. As for her long hair, He Tian still tied it up as usual. "The wind in Yanjing is very strong. If you don't blow up, you will look like a madman when the wind blows when you go out." I quickly washed my face, applied some moisturizer, and bit my pink lips with my teeth to make them redder. He Tian just walked out without a face. She was pulled by Xianglin and said angrily, "Little miss, why did you go out like this? You are as young as a sage and don't wear makeup. It's understandable, but you why a little jewelry? What a waste of such good looks and so many good jewelry." After saying that, Pandan pulled He Tian to prevent He Tian from going out like this. "No need, He Tian thinks this is good. The clothes she wears are different from those in Huaxia. Wearing those jewelry and accessories is a bit too eye-catching." At the same time, she was afraid that she would be too conspicuous, that she would change too much, and that Huo Yingja would talk about her. "Use it, definitely use it," Xianglin said, "a woman's appearance is to please her. When you go to see your fiancé, not other friends, you must dress up well. It's best for him to look straight at you." After that, he took out He Tianation's jewelry box, found a shiny crystal hair tie, and tied it at the root of He Tianation's ponytail. Then he took out 2 crystal hairpins to tie the broken hair on his head and put it on his ears. The lively star crystal earrings. "Is this good?" He Tian looked at herself in the mirror, and she was indeed more refined than before. Xianglin took a look and saw that the lady's windbreaker was a bit too big. It turned out that she didn't have a belt. So she reached for the belt and tied it around He Tianation's waist, revealing her slender waist and outlining her beautiful breasts and lower body. Finally, he took out a pair of white semi-high-heeled leather shoes from the suitcase and said, "Put these on again. If you're not going out, you don't need to change your shoes, right?" Tian was embarrassed. It was too obvious to do this. "Date," Xianglan was puzzled. "We met, why not date? Are you really lovers?" "Yes," Tian nodded repeatedly. "It's okay for me to wear it. This is China, not a foreign country. You have to be careful in your words, deeds, and grooming." It was already more than 10 minutes later when Tian put on her shoes and walked out. Huo Yingjun had already seen Tian's beauty in the United States and was not surprised. Huo Yingji turned his head and saw Tian, and his eyes immediately widened. His Tianbao was so beautiful, it would be great if he could wear it like this every day. But then he thought about it, her sweet baby was dressed like this, he couldn't see it, and it was seen by other men, which made her feel uncomfortable. Huo Yingji was glad that he was wearing a black tunic suit and didn't look out of place in front of Tian. "Tian, you are so beautiful," Huo Yingji praised. Tian's face was red, a little shy being stared at by so many people, and she said softly, "Thank you, why are you in Yanjing?" "There are some things," Huo Yingji said vaguely. "There were rules not to say anything." "Oh, then you." Tian had a lot to say, but she was embarrassed to say it in front of her grandmother and others. In fact, what she wanted to do most was to throw herself into Huo Yingji's arms and kiss her long-missed lover fiercely. Bai Qianjiao came here when she was young. When lovers get together, what they want most is to be alone together. "Okay, you can go out for a walk." Bai Qianjiao is still very open-minded about love. Huo Yingji's eyes lit up and he said, "Thank you, Grandma." Being stared at by everyone, Tian blushed and whispered, "Grandma, goodbye Grandma Lan." Under everyone's gaze, Huo Yingji took Tian's hand and left the room. Where are we going?" Tian whispered, his palms burning. Out of everyone's sight, Huo Yingji held Tian's face, kissed it, and whispered softly, "I miss you so much." "This is the corridor, please be careful," Tian shouted in a low voice. "Aren't you afraid of being reported for bad behavior? My fiancé and I kissed, and we still have to explain it to the whole world." Huo Yingji said, "Okay, it's windy outside, let's go sit in a cafe. There is such a relaxing place in the hotel, and there are many foreigners inside." No one knew them here, so Huo Yingji and Tian found a relatively remote location. "By the way, brother Yingji, why didn't you say why you came to Yanjing?" Tian asked. Their actions were secret. Even if Huo Yingjun was there, Huo Yingji would not know in advance. Huo Yingji felt a little disappointed at the thought of having to live a closed research life. "What's wrong?" Tian asked. "Can't I say it?" "I can't say it to other people, and there's nothing I can't say to you," Huo Yingji said. "I want to participate in a major project, and I received a transfer order from the Science and Technology Commission. In 2 days, I don't know where I will be sent to work." "Ah," Tian was stunned, feeling a little disappointed. Even though she didn't usually take vacations, she still had some vacations during the Chinese New Year, so we could finally see each other. But Huo Yingji has to participate in a major project, so he may not be able to come back during the New Year. "I'm sorry Tian," Huo Yingji said. "How many years can you wait for me?" Seeing Huo Yingji's pitiful and cautious look, Tian put her small hand on his big hand and said, "As long as you don't let me down, I will definitely let you down." Huo Yingji nodded and said, "Don't worry, I will definitely protect you like jade, with a heart of ice in a jade pot, and I will live up to the Tathagata and you." Tian laughed, "What are you talking about?" Huo Yingji said seriously and righteously, "We have feelings, and our family agrees. The only thing that hinders us now is time and distance." Mutual trust is the key to overcoming both difficulties. Yes, he Tian smiled, don't worry, the person I love most is you. Are you relieved now? Don't worry before, but now that you have seen the wonderful things outside, I'm afraid that the boredom here will not keep you. Huo Yingzhe was worried about this the most. When he was in the research institute, he regretted it more than once. If his wife ran away with someone else, he would be miserable and would be unable to find a place to cry. The scenery outside is beautiful, but you are unique. He Tian smiled. Such Huo Yingzhe made her feel a little proud and a little distressed. You are also unique in my heart, Huo Yingzhe said, I only have you in my eyes. Star. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 411. 409. He Tian couldn't help but laugh again, but when she thought of those literary and artistic staff and female doctors, she would definitely be tempted when she saw such an outstanding Huo Yingzhe. Hey, if you can't have a husband and a wife, then you can only warn Huo Yingzhe. When you go to work, stay away from those female doctors and literary and artistic workers, he Tian warned. Although she believed in Huo Yingzhe's character, everyone wanted to grab the good stuff. I promise with my personality that I will never make a principled mistake. From now on, I will stay 3 meters away from all female animals, Huo Yingzhe saluted. He was there for research, not for romance. Humph, he Tian wrinkled her nose, that's pretty much it? Huo Yingzhe felt strange when he saw he Tian's arrogant little appearance, but they couldn't kiss each other in public. What a torment and sin! Just when they wanted to talk privately, they heard Qi Zhenmin's voice. Sister Tian, Qi Zhenmin said, brother, Sister Tian is here. Behind Qi Zhenmin stood Qi Zhengan. More than 10 meters away, Huo Yingzhe and Qi Zhengan's eyes met in mid-air. Qi Zhengan thought to himself, this man is not very good either. Why did Tian identify with him at such a young age? Damn it, this guy covets my woman. This was the first reaction that flashed in Huo Yingzhe's mind. Women's sixth sense is very accurate, and men's sixth sense is not bad either. Although he is a young boy, I have to say that this young man is not bad, but he is still far behind him. He Tian smiled apologetically at Huo Yingzhe and said, I'm sorry, they are here. It's okay, he's your friend, and he's also my friend, Huo Yingzhe said generously. In front of his girlfriend, the situation must be maintained, and he can't seem to overturn the jealousy jar and make Tian lose face. But this was superficial. As for what he was thinking in his heart, Huo Yingzhe would not let others know. He Tian stood up and waved to Qi Zhenmin and Qi Zhengan to come over. Brother Yingzhe, this is Grandma Qi's granddaughter Qi Zhenmin and grandson Qi Zhengan. He Tian waited until they came to introduce them. Zhenmin, Zhengan, this is Brother Yingzhe, my childhood sweetheart. Qi Zhenmin and Qi Zhengan looked at Huo Yingzhe carefully. Huo Yingzhe was personable, stretched out his hand and said, Zhenmin, Zhengan, hello, nice to meet you. Qi Zhenmin was very happy that Huo Yingzhe regarded her as an adult. He shook hands and said, you are the brother Yingzhe that Sister Tian often praises. Qi Zhenmin is a brat. Although she hopes that her brother, he Tian, can develop a relationship beyond friendship, after he Tian explained it to her righteously, she understood that Sister Tian's heart belongs to her. Now that she has someone she likes, she suppresses the thought of pulling a red string in her heart. Really? You talk about me often, Huo Yingzhe chuckled. After shaking hands with Qi Zhengan, he turned sideways and lowered his head to speak in he Tian's ear. His warm breath sprayed in he Tian's ear. Because of Huo Yingzhe's intimate tone and approach, he Tian's earlobes instantly turned red. Qi Zhengan looked a little pale, but the aristocratic education he received since childhood did not make him lose his composure. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Huo," Qi Zhengan said seriously, but in terms of momentum and psychology, he had already lost. When facing Huo Yingzhe, Qi Zhengan felt like a middle-aged man facing his father. "Would you like to sit down together and have some drinks?" He Tian asked. "The snacks here are also good." "Okay," Qi Zhenmin said, "I want apple juice." "Brother, my mother told me that you can only drink boiled water." Qi Zhengan was just about to order coffee, but when he heard his sister's words, he had to smile bitterly and said, "Okay." Unexpectedly, he, who had always been in good health, actually vomited when he got off the plane. The doctor saw him and said he had a weak stomach and was not acclimated to the environment, so he should pay attention to his diet. "What's wrong?" Huo Yingzhe asked. "Are you feeling unwell?" "Yes, gastrointestinal discomfort," Qi Zhenmin replied. "The doctor and grandma also said that it is acclimatization." "Then you need to exercise more," Huo Yingzhe smiled. "He's just a weakling, so it's nothing to worry about." "I'm usually in good health," Qi Zhengan said, and when he said this, he glanced at He Tian. "You little brat, no matter how old you are, you already know how to be courteous in front of girls." Huo Yingzhe felt depressed. He had been away for a long time. How could he feel relieved when Tian had such a little wolf cub by his side? He Tian smiled and said, "Okay, everyone, stop standing and sit down. Where's the date you agreed on?" Huo Yingzhe's eyes were a little sad. Qi Zhengan automatically interpreted Huo Yingzhe's eyes as naked show-off. Qi Zhenmin ate the snacks and said, "Sister Tian, this tastes good, you should try it too." "Okay," He Tian smiled and took a piece of snack to eat. There was some snack foam at the corner of He Tian's mouth. Huo Yingzhe took out his handkerchief, helped He Tian wipe away the snack crumbs from the corner of his mouth, and said, "Eat like a child." "Ouch, that tone is so sweet and annoying." Qi Zhenmin smiled through his cigarette holder and said thiefly, "Ouch, we are here, are we disturbing you?" "No. No," He Tian blushed and explained, "hurry up and have some snacks." "You are just disturbing us," Huo Yingzhe's expression revealed his inner thoughts. Qi Zhengan was in a low mood and didn't want to drink water, so he said, "Zhenmin, since the snacks are delicious, let's bring some to grandma." Okay, Qi Zhenmin then thought of his brother, who must be feeling very sad now. Qi Zhenmin brought snacks and followed his brother. "Brother, are you feeling sad?" Qi Zhenmin asked in a low voice, looking at his brother cautiously. "Nothing," Qi Zhengan replied. In fact, he was really sad, mourning the death of his first love. Qi Zhenmin took her brother's hand and said, "Brother, mother said that only two people who love each other will be happy together. Sister Tian likes that Mr. Huo, can we wish them well?" "Not good. Not good at all." Qi Zhengan screamed in his heart, but when he saw his sister's concerned eyes and thought of the education his mother and father usually gave him, he finally nodded and said, "Okay, I wish them well." "That's great," Qi Zhenmin said happily, "Brother, you are so outstanding and great, you will definitely meet the best girl in the world and have a beautiful love." "Then I'll lend you my blessing." Qi Zhengan shook his head and laughed. "This little girl is like a love expert." "Of course, I know a lot." Seeing his brother smile, Qi Zhenmin felt relieved. Seeing Qi Zhengan and Qi Zhenmin leaving, Huo Yingzhe smiled and said, "Don't you want to talk about it?" He Tian glanced at Huo Yingzhe's teasing eyes, twitched her nose and said, "I've made it clear to him, we are friends now." "Oh," Huo Yingzhe nodded. "You don't believe me," He Tian frowned, "we agreed to trust each other." "Trust you?" Huo Yingzhe said seriously, holding He Tian's hand with both hands. "I can't protect you or accompany you because I didn't do a good enough job." Star. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 412. 410. He Tian felt sweet in her heart and said, "Actually, I know that you have done a lot for me and my parents." Without Huo Yingzhe, her parents would not have been able to easily evade investigation in Nanji. Without Huo Yingzhe's intervention, their parents would not have been able to be transferred to Huishi. Now they are staying with her in Kijia village, living a stable life. The current peace is all Huo Yingzhe's silent effort behind the scenes. He Tian is not one of those people who only knows love and love all day long. She understands the dedication and sacrifice behind love. If you want to get something, you have to pay in other ways. Huo Yingzhe was moved when he heard He Tian's words. "This is what I should do," Huo Yingzhe said. He would not let the regrets from his previous life reappear. "So, I understand you, don't feel guilty," He Tian said, "we two are fine. No matter how long it takes, I will wait for you." "Okay," Huo Yingzhe smiled, "this is your first time here. Can I take you out for a walk?" He Tian looked at her clothes and asked a little worriedly, "Is this okay for us?" "Of course," Huo Yingzhe said, "if you dress like this, others will think of you as an overseas Chinese. It's more unusual in other places, but it doesn't matter to the eyes." "Okay, then I'll go back to the house and tell my grandmother to change a pair of shoes," He Tian said. "You can't wear leather shoes when you go out to play. Your feet hurt from walking too much." Huo Yingzhe followed up and paid a visit to Grandma Chi-san. He Tian returned to the house and changed into a pair of white sneakers. It's hard for this young couple. They can't see each other for a long time. They miss them very much. Grandma Chi-san smiled and said, you go out for a walk, don't stay here with us two old ladies." "Grandma," He Tian refused, "how about I take you out for a walk?" "No, I'm going shopping with your grandmother, so I won't go out with you," Grandma Chi-san said with a smile. It was a rare opportunity for two young people to get together, so she had to recognize each other. No matter how good the relationship is, if there is no interaction, it will fade away over time. "Thank you, Grandma Chi, thank you, Grandma." Huo Yingzhe smiled broadly. He had been afraid before that the date between the two would become a trip together. When the two of them left the hotel, they saw Li Yunzong and Zhang Aijun. When they saw He Tian, they were so shocked that they didn't recognize him. "Comrade Huo, why does this girl look like Tian?" Li Yunzong was the fastest and asked first. "Comrade Li, I am He Tian," He Tian said with a smile. "Buddha relies on gold, and people rely on clothes." After changing her clothes, they no longer recognize her. "Ah," Li Yunzong was stunned, why have you changed?" "It's a long story, so I'll make it short," He Tian smiled and said, "I went out to work before, so I won't talk about the tasks. Come on, I want to visit Yanjing City today." Now that He Tian said so, Li Yunzong and Zhang Aijun couldn't continue to ask. When He Tian came out, she brought her camera. They took photos in Tiananmen Square. Li Yunzong and Zhang Aijun also took advantage of them and took many photos. "You are not a true man unless you have been to the Great Wall." "Brother Yingzhe, I want to see the Great Wall," He Tian said, "you go with me." "Okay," Huo Yingzhe agreed, "just don't be a good man, you'd better be my little Jiaoyi." He Tian glared at Huo Yingzhe and said, "If there are outsiders here, they will talk nonsense." "It's okay. I'll get rid of them later," Huo Yingzhe said. It was a downtown area now. He couldn't let the little turtle appear. He could only let the two big light bulbs follow him. Li Yunzong drove to the foot of the Great Wall. He Tian got out of the car and ran towards the Great Wall. "Slow down, if you don't feel tired now, you won't be able to walk for a while," Huo Yingzhe reminded. In his heart, He Tian has always been the little Jiaoyi who needs protection. "The first thing you do when you climb to the Great Wall is to pose for photos." Then we walked westward along the majestic Great Wall, facing the sun, feeling quite refreshed in autumn. On the Great Wall, you can occasionally meet other tourists. After climbing to a commanding height, He Tian stood on the edge and looked down. Huo Yingzhe grabbed her and hugged her tightly. Brother Yingzhe, you can't do this, Li Yunzong, Zhang Aijun is behind you, He Tian reminded in a low voice. Along the way, she saw the fire in Huo Yingzhe's eyes more than once. Huo Yingzhe said, "It's okay, the little turtle has been guarded outside by them. You miss me so much, my dear." Upon hearing this, He Tian felt relieved and closed her eyes. "I miss you too, very much," He Tian replied. "Hey," Huo Yingzhe sighed, "when will these days end? It's fine if you don't see He Tian, but if you see it and can't eat it, it's so uncomfortable." "Brother Yingzhe, when are you going to report?" He Tian asked. She expected to leave the day after tomorrow and hoped to spend one more day with Huo Yingzhe. Huo Yingzhe felt sour in his heart and murmured, "Tomorrow." Oh, He Tian was a little disappointed, but it was an unexpected surprise that the two of them could meet each other, and she was very satisfied. "Then take care of yourself, eat well, and work hard. Remember, little housekeeper," Huo Yingzhe said, "you do the same, protect yourself." The two of them exchanged affectionate fists and whispered love words. Before I knew it, the sun was setting outside. "It's getting late, we should go back," He Tian reminded that it was a bit far to go back to the hotel from here and time was a bit tight. Huo Yingzhe suddenly felt like a deflated rubber ball and lamented, "Time flies so fast." "Yes, we have been out for a day," He Tian said, "if our love lasts for a long time, how can we stay together day and night?" "I want it for a long time, and even more for a long time," Huo Yingzhe muttered, "take this." Asterisk.